Political militant Islam portal Politics portal Salafi jihadism or jihadist Salafism is a major branch of Salafism and a transnational religious political ideology based on a belief in physical jihadism and on the Salafist concept of returning to true Sunni Islam. The terms Salafist jihadist and jihadist Salafism were coined by scholar Gilles Kepel in 2002 to describe a hybrid Islamist ideology developed by international Islamist volunteers in the Afghan anti-Soviet jihad who had become isolated from their national and social class origins. The concept was described by Martin Kramer as an academic term that will inevitably be jihadism or the jihadist movement in popular usage. Qutbism has been used as a close relative or variety of Salafi jihadism. Practitioners are referred to as Salafi jihadis or Salafi jihadists. They are sometimes described as a variety of Salafi and sometimes as separate from good Salafis, whose movement eschews any political and organizational allegiances is potentially divisive for the Muslim community and a distraction from the study of religion. Salafist jihadists maintain they are not dividing the Muslim community because the rulers and other self-proclaimed Muslims they attack have deviated from Islam and are actually apostates. In the 1990s, extremist jihadists of the Al-Jama'a al-Islamiyya were active in the attacks on police, government officials and tourists in Egypt, and Armed Islama Group of Algeria was a principal group in the Algerian Civil War. The most infamous jihadist Salafist attack is the September 11, 2001 attacks against the United States by Al-Qaeda. While Salafism had next to no presence in Europe in the 1980s, Salafist jihadists had by the mid-2000s acquired a burgeoning presence in Europe, having attempted more than 30 terrorist attacks among EU countries since 2001. While many see the influence and activities of Salafi jihadists as in decline after 2000, others see the movement as growing. In the wake of the Arab Spring and the breakdown of state control in Libya and Syria, Gilles Kepel writes that the Salafis whom he encountered in Europe in the 1980s were totally apolitical. However, by the mid-1990s, he met some who felt jihad in the form of violence and terrorism was justified to realize their political objectives. The combination of Salafi alienation from all things non-Muslim, including mainstream European society and violent jihad created a volatile mixture. When you're in the state of such alienation, you become easy prey to the jihadi guys who will feed you more savory propaganda than the old propaganda of the Salafists who tell you to pray fast and who are not taking action. According to Kepel, Salafist jihadism combined respect for the sacred texts in their most literal form with an absolute commitment to jihad, whose number one target had to be America, perceived as the greatest enemy of the faith. Salafi jihadists distinguish themselves from Salafis they term Sheikhist, so named because the jihadists believed the Sheikhists had forsaken adoration of God for adoration of the oil sheikhs of the Arabian Peninsula, with the Al-Saad family at their head. Principal among the Sheikhist scholars was Abdul Aziz ibn Baz, the archetypal court ulema. These allegedly false Salafi had to be striven against and eliminated. But even more infuriating was the Muslim Brotherhood, who were believed by Salafi jihadists to be excessively moderate and lacking in literal interpretation of holy texts. Iyad al-Baghdadi describes Salafism as deeply divided into mainstream Salafism and jihadi Salafism. Another definition of Salafi jihadism, offered by Muhammad M. Hafiz, is an extreme form of Sunni Islamism that rejects democracy and Shia rule. Hafiz distinguished them from apolitical and conservative Salafi scholars, but also from the Sahaba movement associated with Salman al-Oda or Safa al-Hawali. According to Muhammad M. Hafiz, contemporary jihadi Salafism is characterized by 5 features. Another researcher, Thomas Heghammer, has outlined 5 objectives shared by jihadis. Robin Wright notes the importance in Salafi jihadist groups of, according to Michael Horowitz, Salafi jihad as an ideology that identifies the alleged source of the Muslims' conundrum in the persistent attacks and humiliation of Muslims on the part of an anti-Islamic alliance of what it terms crusaders, Zionists, and apostates. Al Jazeera journalist Jamal al-Sharif describes Salafi jihadism as combining the Doctrinal content and approach of Salafism and organizational models from Muslim Brotherhood organizations. Their motto emerged as Salafism in Doctrine, Modernity in Confrontation. Antecedents of Salafism. Jihadism notably includes Egyptian Islamist author Sayyid Qutb, who developed the intellectual underpinnings in the 1950s for what would later become the doctrine of most jihadist organizations around th.